Tom King is a former basketball player who you likely have not heard of. And I don't blame you, because trust me, no one really knows. He played professional basketball for just 1 year. In the 1940s, he suited up for the scarcely remembered Detroit Falcons basketball squad, and he wasn't necessarily the most skillful player. In fact, Tom averaged just over 5 points a game in that sole season he played. So, what we need to know about Tom King is how he was paid more than double the money anyone else was in the league that year. Second place in salary was Joe Fulks, who was a star for the Philadelphia Warriors and pocketed a respectable $8,000 for the season. Fulks led his team to a championship win this year, averaging 23 points a game. No one else in the league scored even 17 a night, but the man towering above him and the rest of the league in earnings was a borderline bench warmer. Tom King shot just 23% from the field. He attempted 410 shots through the 58-game season, about 7 a game. He made less than 100, just about 2 a game. So who the hell is Tom King? And how did he finesse the most impressive payday in NBA history? Oh, Tom. Yeah, that's the same picture I opened with. Yeah, that's about all we have of Tom. There's also this flick. Most people seem to agree that's him right there, wearing number 11. It's pretty slim picking, and you'll see why in a second. Now, the year is 1946. The league we know as the NBA did exist, but it was going under the moniker of the BAA, the Basketball Association of America. And this 1946 year was the first in BAA and technically NBA history. The league brought in 11 total teams, many of them you won't recognize. Only 3 of these original teams still exist, the Knicks and Celtics who have stayed put, and the Philadelphia Warriors who moved out west. But one of these teams was the Detroit Falcons. Just like everyone else, they were a startup franchise working with whatever they could get their hands on. There's a shockingly small amount of information about this team out there, considering they were in the NBA, but here's what we do know. This team signed Tom King to play for them in 1946. Tom King was a local boy. He played basketball at the University of Michigan. Somehow, Tom was able to negotiate an impressive salary of $8,500 a year. That was more than any other player in the league was making. Detroit had to have high hopes for Tom, but he wasn't finished. Turns out, Tom didn't just play basketball at Michigan. He also graduated with a business management degree that he was about to put to work. After landing himself an already respectable salary, Tom King talked his way into a front office management job, earning the titles of publicity director, business manager, and traveling secretary of the same team he was playing for. These positions bumped his salary figure up another $8,000, giving him his total league dominating $16.5K a year, more than double the next guy. I took the 2 very highest paid players in the NBA for every single year I could find that data, and this was the percentage of pay difference between them. A 0% means the top 2 players earn the same amount of money, and a 100% would mean the top player exactly doubled the next highest. Here's where Bill Russell famously asked for a $100,001 contract, a single dollar above Wilt Chamberlain's salary, giving him the slightest of percentage leads. Other high points are guys like Larry Bird and Michael Jordan for a couple years, but no one has ever out-earned the rest of the league quite to the level of Tom King, the relatively speaking largest NBA pay gap ever was from a man scoring 2 baskets a game, who the world knows hardly anything about. That's 4 of the best to ever do it, man. What a stat. Even though next to nothing is known about him, we can make the assumption that Tom was not very good at his jobs. On the court, yeah, just 5 points a game, but Well, off the court, the Detroit Falcons folded after just one single season, likely in part because they gave 30% of their entire team's salary cap to one player. I mean, they put all their eggs in the Tom King basket. And yes, his $16,500 was all a part of the same salary, so you can't say it was money from two different jobs and only half should count. It was all a hit to the same player cap. It's the same thing with Bill Russell's $100,001 contract. That was for being a player and a coach. Stuff like this was just more common back then. And that right there is basically our story. Tom played in the first year of the NBA and the only year of the Detroit Falcons. Another big reason this Falcons team failed was the direct competition of another pro basketball team in Detroit that played in a different league. These two Detroit teams both started up their franchise this year and both drove each other out of money and out of town instantly by splitting the Detroit market. While the Falcons just gave up and folded, the Detroit Gems were actually sold and relocated to Minneapolis. There, they were named after the Great Lakes of Minnesota and eventually moved again to Los Angeles, where they still reside today as the Los Angeles Lakers. But for Tom, that's where it ends. That's all we know. Apparently, Tom went on to be successful in business in some right, which makes sense, dude could definitely talk, but that's about it. There's about 2 paragraphs worth of total information about Tom King that's out there, originating, I think, here, from this book about the formation and rise of the NBA. And it has been paraphrased and regurgitated by just a couple different smaller sources without anything to really add. But that's it. No major sports or news outlet has ever picked this story up. This is his entire Wikipedia page. I have shared with you just about every fact on this, every fact that has lived on about Tom King. He's somehow avoided the attention of prying NBA media for all these years. No one has ever found this stat and even done so much of a story on the guy or any research. It just doesn't sit right with me. He has to be the only highest paid player who we know nothing about. It's almost only superstars who have that honor. In fact, most internet lists literally have this stat wrong. They don't know Tom King was the highest paid player that year, including Wikipedia, despite saying it on his own page. That's how little known this guy is. He has slipped under everything. If you wanted to find out some more information about the first highest paid player ever, you couldn't. I guess just no one has taken the time or care to investigate Tom's life and get any more of his story told. But then, I put my detective hat on. I stared at this sheet of the few facts we had, unable to get anything else and wanting more. Then, I realized it was staring at me. The death date, obituaries, everyone has one. I found Thomas Van Dyke King's obituary. May he rest in peace. Here alone, there was way more information than any other source on the internet had. But I went deeper. Tom made music in his older years. I found his group. One article even linked a thomasking.net at the bottom, a personal website. The site belongs to someone else now, but using the Wayback Machine, bingo, all of it. Tom's personal and music website with interviews, a letter from the man, and most importantly, tons more pictures of Tom throughout his whole life that definitely were not known to the modern world. The jackpot. And somehow, I guess I was the one to solve this cold case? So why does this matter? Well, it doesn't really matter, but in reality, this guy was extremely close to falling into the abyss of unknown, to maybe never be remembered again. And for the highest paid pro basketball player in history for a little bit, that's not right. I wish there was something I could do to really pay homage to Tom, beyond just spreading the word, posting the video. Luckily, there is. Tom King and the Royal Chicagoans. One More Time, Volume 7. I could maybe play some of it for the outro? No. You've all already paid homage to Tom King, because you've already heard almost 3 of his full songs. Because for the last 10 minutes, you've been enjoying the works of Tom King and the Royal Chicagoans.